All right, well, I guess the stream is working. I hope, anyway. So the idea here,
All right.
well, I guess the stream is working. Let me mute that. The idea here is to take my render of the little house project I did and make it look like pixel art. But in order to do that, I have to basically rebuild all of the shaders. So we will kind of, I'm going to be sort of like experimenting around with this. So it's not going to be like a well put together video, I guess you can say. I do want to try to get a little bit of music going though. Very, very low if possible. Hopefully that's low enough to hear. All right, so the idea here is I want to sort of isolate things. I want to work my way, I want to kind of simplify it a little bit and then work my way back up and kind of rebuild the shaders. And I'll sort of explain what is going on with getting this to work correctly if I can. So the first thing I want to try to do is go into my render settings and I want to turn off my volume. So it's going to be under environment, and I'm hoping that I can actually just turn it off without disabling it. So I think I can do that. I think what I can do is I can just put a note in here, density 0.001, and then if I just pop that down to 0, that should get rid of all of my volumes. Let me do a quick render here just to see. It's taking a while to let me to load that render window for some reason. Here we go. Actually, the other thing I want to do, I think I have motion blur on. I'm going to turn that off. Let's see if we can just get a render. Yeah, that's pretty good, and that's enough to let me know that my volume is off. I'm going to change this to 1. Okay, so the next thing I want to do here is start to hide everything. Because again, I kind of want to work on this a little, just like kind of one piece at a time. So I'm just going to go through my whole scene and just hide a bunch of stuff. I also need to replace my lights because these lights aren't going to work well with the toon shader, and I'll sort of explain that. So I'm just selecting all of these individual pieces here in my outliner and just hitting Control H to hide them. And I'm just going to go through and really simplify my scene. Maybe just get it down to where it's just the house by itself. So something like this. And yeah, I'm actually going to hide some of these lights too. Window lights. I'm going to hide all of these guides. And okay, so I want to leave this the way it is because I want to, again, I want to kind of rebuild the shaders one at a time. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything here and just duplicate it. Yeah, I'll just Control D to duplicate everything there. And this is a big scene. It's got a lot of stuff in it. So most functions like duplicate and in a second I'm going to do mesh combine. That's going to take a few seconds for it to actually kick over. Maybe if I had a better computer, but the computer I have it's still a pretty decent computer, but it is a couple years old now. So just a little bit while this is thinking, the way that this works basically is I need to assign a toon shader, an AI toon shader to everything. And so what I'm going to try to do is individually go through all my shaders and just kind of rebuild them so I have the same colors. I can use the same color jitter node to get like the variation of colors and stuff like that. But I will need to sort of rebuild all my shaders from scratch. So my idea here for what I'm doing now is just to create sort of like a little test model. So I'll take my house and just combine it all together. So just a test model that I can just throw one shader on or one material on, and then just kind of figure that out as I go. And then I'll go in and kind of individually, one by one, work on my actual house. But yeah, this is taking a really long time. The stream seems to be working. This is the first time I've streamed anything in probably 4 or 5 years. It's been a while. I would like to get back into the habit of streaming just as I'm working on a regular basis. I always enjoy doing that. And it keeps me motivated to work on my projects, my personal projects. Did it work? Did it? No, it's still thinking. I might need to shut down Maya and restart here. Like I said, this is a big scene. So it's using a lot of memory. Doesn't look like it's completely frozen. Oh, maybe that was it. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I'm going to take my duplicate here and I'm going to do something equally crazy. I'm not quite sure why that. Not quite sure what's going on with that piece, but that's okay. What piece? I think this is for the house. I just want to make sure it's still there. Okay, so it's there in that one. It's just not there. That's fine. So now I'm going to do something equally crazy and do a mesh combine. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to combine it because I feel like that's just going to take a lot of time. I do want to take this guy and just move it back there. Maybe I'll combine it if I have to step away from the screen or something. I'll combine it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select maybe I should combine it because it's all in the same groups. I don't want this in those groups. All right, let's do it. Let's hit mesh combine and hopefully it just doesn't take a crazy amount of time to combine all of these. It's a lot of objects, so we'll see. Hopefully we don't crash Maya. I hope the quality of the stream is okay. I'm on Wi-Fi. I probably should try to hardwire my computer to my modem, but I've been that would require me crawling through my attic. I don't really want to do that. Cool. Thanks for letting me know. I know, again, it's been like 4 or 5 years since I've done a live stream. And last time I did it, I had a lot of issues just running it off of Wi-Fi. But hopefully maybe the technology speeds have gotten better since then. I would like to, probably stream for a couple hours tonight, maybe an hour, hour and a half or so. And I'll probably at some point put this together in like a more straightforward video on how to do this. Cool. Thanks, Hidden Arts. And as soon as this combines, we should be able to get started. The video that let me show you the video where I want to give credit where credit is due. Pixel rendering, Arnold Maya. So this is the video that I kind of followed to kind of get an idea on how to do this. I actually haven't looked through this document, but it's just the Arnold Renderer YouTube channel and this video here. So if you want a really quick, straightforward sort of explanation on how to do this, that's a great video right there. In retrospect, I probably should have did this before I started the stream. I got the music going just through the audio library in YouTube, but it doesn't seem like it does autoplay. Like it wants me to click back on it to go to a new song, which is kind of interesting. I think I need to download them. To just have it play nonstop. So I think something like this is kind of like what I'm going for, where it's, it's 3D, obviously, so you can rotate around it and everything, but it's pixel art. And I've always been a big fan of pixel art. I think it's really cool. So that's sort of like my idea. I'd love to do some more experimenting and be able to figure out a way to kind of render things out in this pixel art style while being 3D. So this is sort of like my goal here. The volumes are going to be something that I have to figure out. I may have to do those with like sprites or something like that, or just like volume shapes. So that I foresee that as being something that I have to kind of figure out as I go. I know that's going to be a challenge for me, but I have some ideas on that, on getting volumes. Some of these aren't even pixel art, but it's still kind of like the style that I want to shoot for. It's still going. Yeah, definitely should have done this off stream. So here's the basic concept. While that's cooking, we can kind of talk about sort of like the basic setup here. So let me add in a area light, just because that's kind of what I have in my scene now, is area lights. Sort of show you the basic setup here. And then I'll check on this other one from time to time just to see if it's done. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a AI Toon shader. So if we here, so if I do a render of this now, that's what it looks like. Let's do a screen grab of that. Okay, so what we're going to do is assign new material. And we're going to look for, in the Arnold, we're going to do AI Tune. And I just want to make sure that everything has that material. So I'm going to go to Base, and let's change the color. All right, so just make sure everything has that applied to it. So we do a render, and now I get something like that, right? So what we want to do, let's make a comparison along the way here. What we want to do in our AI Tune shader is we want to assign a tone map here. So I'm going to click tone map, and this will probably work with any ramp, but the video that I watched, the guy used an AI ramp. So we're going to use an AI ramp. So that's going to be in your Arnold utility nodes. Somewhere, probably just type in ramp. AI ramp RGB, that's what we want there. So with this, what we're going to do is make sure we set our interpolation to none, so that way we get just like a hard stop on the colors. So what that will result is this sort of effect. So here I can kind of control the shading, right? So you can see how that's kind of changing a little bit. Now the problem with this is with our current light, it's giving us like a gradated shadow, like we're having a little bit of a fall off here. That isn't necessarily what I want. I want it to be kind of like tune shaded. So I want it to be hard transitions between different colors. So what I want to do instead of this area light is I want to use just a normal directional light. So just like a typical directional light that you get out of just Maya's basic rendering. So we get something like that. And there may be another setting that I have to change, but I'm going to see if it'll work without that first. But basically what a directional light does is, say you have it's basically like an area light, but it's an infinite plane. So all light rays are like parallel of each other. So you get these really hard shadows that aren't at all realistic, but they're really easy to render. Because there's not a lot of calculation that has to go on. So that's what we're going to be using, are these directional lights. So that's another thing I need to do to my main scene, is change all of my aerial lights to directional lights. So let's do a render, and I'm going to need to bring the intensity way up. Okay, so that's good. So we don't have to change the other setting that I thought we'd have to change. So now we're going to get something like this, right? Very, very tune shaded. And now if we go back into our tune shader or our ramp, I can control sort of where those highlights are. And you can kind of get as detailed with this as you like. I'm going to make another little tick there, and for this one we're going to go with more of like a 50% gray for that one, and I want this one also be set to none. right? It's hard to see, but there is a little bit of a difference there, right? And then as I bump this one down, you can see that difference there. Let's there. So as I lighten it a little bit more, you can see the difference there. And this kind of overlays on top of what we already have. I usually don't like making my blacks completely black. But yeah, this will kind of overlay what we already have there, and then we can kind of control, you can really see it right there, that line basically. So if I go back to my material attributes and I change the color of my material here, you can see that it's not really changing the color. What we're doing with that tone map is just sort of changing the shadows, right? The shading. And additionally, we can do the same thing to our specular tone map. So if we give it start giving it a little bit of specularity, you basically see some reflections in there. But the reflections are a little bit too realistic, so I don't want to just keep those as they are. I want to add a tone map to that. So I'm also going to do a AI ramp RGB on that one. And same deal, I'm just going to add a none. And now you see that we start to get sort of like some highlights. And you can add colors to these, right? Let's change this to none as well. Right, so if you wanted to, like if you wanted to indicate like a light color, you could, you could add like some warmth to this tone map and it should come through. I'm not really seeing it there, but it should come through. But we don't want that. We want it to just be, we want it to be sort of like overlaid with our existing colors. So now you can see that we have so basically like a toon shaded thing now. And then if we want, we can go in to that material. And I can also add a tone map to my edge. Okay, the other thing I want to do is change in my specular. I want to increase the roughness. Right, and in that, we do get a little bit of weird highlights. I think I need to go back in and make sure that everything here is set to, that may be some other setting there that I'm going to have to figure out, but you can start to get an idea. It's a pretty cool looking shader. You can do a lot of artistic things with it. And there's a silhouette, so we can control the silhouette. So the silhouette is just going to be like an outline around our object. So if I change the color of this, I'm not really seeing it here, but and then we have I may need to do a tone map for these two. Let's check on our other scene. Okay. All right, so that's the basic idea. And then to make it look pixelated, this is a really neat thing, is all we got to do is go into our Arnold renderer and we set our camera AAs to a negative value. So like -3 is going to make it look pixelated. That's a little too much for this one, so like -1 or -2. Right, and then we get a really pixelated looking render. So that's sort of like the basic idea. Obviously there's going to be a lot of tweaking that happens, but that's the basic idea. So let's go back to our main scene here, and let's start figuring this out with our main scene. So I'm going to take all the lights. So we already established that we need directional lights, not area lights. So I'm going to hide my lights here. And I'm going to grab this entire house, and I'm going to assign a toon shader. So assign new material, and we want a AI toon. It is not cooperating well today. Probably need to delete history as well. It's always a difficult part about working with these large scenes is you're just kind of waiting for selections and stuff to happen. There's probably a better way to go about them. I try to hide as much as I can. So yeah, it's taking a minute to add that toon shader. Oh, there we go. I think. Okay, all right. So let's take now. I'm going to take all of the stuff in my good house. And I'm going to hide it one by one. And then we'll come back and sort of address things one by one after we sort of get our initial shader set up. Let me make sure where this guy, he's going to be down at the bottom there, so that's good. Okay. Hopefully now we can cook. So we have the toon shader on this. I'm going to create a directional light. I always like to make my directional lights nice and big so we can kind of see where they're located, and we need to increase the intensity on this quite a bit. Okay, so as it stands, this has a toon shader, just a normal default toon shader on it. So when we render it, it should be a pretty quick render of something like that. I am in the wrong camera, so let's go to perspective. Okay. There we go. So that's our basic toon shader. So this one's going to be sort of like my sample here. And there is still some shading that's happening in here with the specular. And I think that could be the one setting that we need to change in our render settings. I'm going to try it. Let's save this render so we can do a little comparison shot. Right, and I'm going to go to my render settings. I'm going to go to filter, and I'm going to change my type to contour. And then we'll do another render. So I don't see a huge difference there. So that's okay. We'll just move forward. All right, so I'm going to take my toon shader here and let's name this one we'll just name this one test. So I'm just going to put test at the end of it. And we're going to go down to our base. And we're going to add a AI ramp RGB. And we're going to change our interpolation to none on both of these. And let's add a middle. It's like a middle gray here. And then I want to also want to go back out here and add a color to my base. Doesn't really matter what color, we're just going to kind of use this to test things with. Blue's probably good. And then our ramp, we can actually just turn this on live render while we're tweaking our ramp. And so the idea with this ramp is that I can use this same ramp on most of my other materials. So I want to change the name of this to base tone map, because I'm also going to do a specular tone map. So the idea is that I can use this ramp, same ramp, on all of my materials, and I can just kind of tweak them as I go. Now once we get started, we're going to be doing a lot of this in the hypershade, just because it's easier to kind of mix and match your materials in the hypershade. And then we're also going to add go to material attributes. We're going to add a tone map in our specular as well. We want to increase our specular a little bit and increase the roughness a little bit. And we want to ramp in here as well. So AI ramp RGB. Same thing, I'm going to set both of these to none. And let's see what that looks like. This one, you may not necessarily need three different tones for your tone map. I think one will probably work just fine. There's a lot of stuff going on in here that I'm not sure about. I'm hoping that will kind of go away once we tweak it a little bit more. And then I also want to change the name of this one to spec tone map. And we can edit the roughness to kind of control that highlight. So if you want more of a highlight, you just increase that roughness. So now we're getting something that looks very sort of toon shady, right? And then there's still some weird highlights in here with some weird specular stuff happening. But I think once we change our render settings, let's go ahead and do that, because it will actually render a lot faster if we go ahead and decrease our camera AAs. Let's just start out at something like -1. And it actually render really fast. So you can see that -1 gives us a very sort of pixelated look. I don't like the dots in there. We'll have to kind of figure out how to fix those. It might be something within the light, but you can see if I do like -3, then it's going to get really pixelated. -2, -1. Let's just stick with -1 for now. Right, and then this is very much a camera-based thing. So as your object gets further away from the camera, it's going to look more pixelated. But I like this. This is kind of the look that I'm going for here. Let's see if we can edit some of the lights. I wonder if we do emit specular. Yeah, we want to keep that on. Whoa. Turning that on and off gave us a completely different look. I'm not mad about it, but let's just restart our render. Wow, yeah. And I usually like to lighten my shadows a little bit so they're not completely black. Yeah, that's kind of the point. I'm going for a very pixelated look. That's what I'm trying to achieve, something that kind of looks like pixel art. So we got off to a slow start, but I think we're getting there. But for some reason, yeah, when I turn that on and off, we got a completely different look. That's okay. I do want to create a couple different area lights or directional lights and possibly give them a tad of color. Even though, honestly, I don't know if it's going to affect. That might be something I just need to change in the tone map. But we'll see. We're gonna just move forward. I would like to add in a couple more lights so we can get a nice sort of 3-point lighting scheme here. So I'm just going to duplicate the light that I already have here. We'll do one that's just going sort of straight down. And then I'll do one just a little bit from the back and probably edit their individual intensities quite a bit. The nice thing about area lights too is they can really be anywhere. So for ease of access, I could make these guys just right on top of my my house. Like the location of a directional light doesn't affect it because all the rays are being shot at the same direction. So the physical location of your directional light doesn't change anything. So if I want to make this really easy to kind of select and manipulate, I can just make those really big. Right, I probably want these to be kind of low intensity. And then the one going straight down, I want that to be the higher intensity because this would be like the sun or the moonlight or something like that. And then this back one, for now we're just going to make this one a very low intensity. You can see that it renders fairly quick too. The other thing that you can play around with, which I, to be honest, haven't messed around with, is the edge. We could try plugging in a tone map ramp to the edge, and that should give us sort of like an outline. Let's try it. Probably need to zoom in to see it in action. Yeah, that's kind of the point, Mr. Blanzenman. I'm trying to get pixel art, basically. So just using toon shaders and render techniques, I'm trying to achieve something that looks like pixel art. And I know it can be done. There's definitely going to be some challenges along the way, but I'm pretty confident I can do it and make it look pretty cool. I mean, it's already looking neat, in my opinion. I don't know about this edge setting. I may have to look up on how to use that edge. So for now, it says requires contour filter. We have the contour filter turned on. Let me just double check that. Yeah, contour filter is on. I'll have to do some more research and probably come back to how to mess around with that edge function. But that's the basic deal here. So now I think we can jump in and start unhiding parts of our model and one at a time rebuilding the shaders. I'm going to take this guy and we're going to shrink it down to be really small. So this is going to be sort of like my sample guy. And then one at a time. I think the shingles are probably a pretty good place to start. So we'll just go ahead and unhide the shingles. Now with the shingles here, obviously I have two different ones. I have a blue shingle and a red shingle. So we're going to be doing this we're going to be spending some time in the hypershade here. So let's go into the hypershade. And I want my shingle material. And I want the toon shader. I want both of those to be mapped out because I'm going to be using my ramps from the toon shader. And really the only thing I'm going to be using from my shingle material is this AI color jitter, but I definitely want to use the same one. So what I'm going to do here is we're just going to create a toon shader. So I'm going to hit tab, AI toon, that's what I want. And I'm just going to plug in my color jitter node. So if you don't know about the color jitter node, it's just a really cool Arnold node that basically randomizes the color slightly of all of your different your objects. So if you have a bunch of if you have like 100 different objects, but they all have the same material on them, you can basically randomize the color based on the object. So even though they have the same material on them, they'll have the same settings, material settings, but they'll have a slightly different color. So let's create the toon shader first, and then I'll kind of show you what I mean by that. So I'm just going to take the ramp, the two tone maps that I made. So I'm going to delete this one because that was for the edge. We didn't really figure out how to use it. So I'm just going to delete that one for now. And then in my toon, I'm going to take spec tone map, and I'm going to put just middle mouse click, drag that into tone map under specular, and then this base tone map, middle mouse drag that into tone map under base. And then I can, let's just make the color here like a bluish color. And then what I'm going to do to get all of my same, to get that material on all of these guys is currently they have this shingles material on them. So I'm just going to right click this and say select objects with material. And that will select all of my shingles there. And then I can right click the AI toon shader and say assign materials to viewport selection. And that's going to assign that toon shader to my shingles. Now I'm going to move my hypershade. Going to need the hypershade a lot. We're going to be using that a lot. But I move that to the side there. And let's open up our render view. It's probably the same video that I watched. I shared it earlier. It's the it's just the Arnold YouTube channel. It's probably the same video. But yeah, it's a really short, good video. But yeah, I showed that at the beginning of the stream just because I like to give credit. Okay, so if we render this, let's make sure that for some reason we didn't get a color selected there. So let's select a blue color. Okay, so all of our shingles are the same color now. Right, so what we can do is use that AI color jitter node, and I'm going to use the same one that was on my original scene. Let's move this guy to the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this AI color jitter node, and I'm just going to middle mouse drag that to my base color. And now when I do a refresh, all of my shingles are slightly different colors. Right? And if I want to edit that, you know, because it may look different, that's all going to be done in the AI color jitter node. So if I want to brighten it up a little bit or make it a little bit more saturated, I think since we're going with a more stylized pixel art thing, we can make it a little bit more stylized. So there you go. The AI color jitter is just a node you can attach to your materials, and even though they're all the same material, you can randomize their colors a little bit. So you have hue. So that's basically how I'm going to be rebuilding my materials. I'm just going to take my existing materials and kind of reconnect them to a toon shader. And because I'm using the same tone map for for most of them. If I don't like the way that it looks, but I'll create another tone map. But I can basically control all the shaders with just the tone map. So, but that looks good. We can go ahead and move on. We can change the. Let's change the roughness. Oh, and the specular weight. We need to bring the specular weight up a little bit so we can see those highlights. And the roughness. So I like to see them a little bit. So a few little specular highlights there. That looks good. Okay, so moving on, we need the next shingle variant. So that's these red shingles here. So this one, I'm not sure if I have a color jitter node. We'll figure it out though. So same thing I did before. I'm going to select the node that I want, and I'm going to shift select my tune shader as well, and I'm just going to map both of those. Yeah, so see, this one doesn't actually have a color jitter node attached to it. So there is a way we can grab that same color though. So same deal. I'm just going to go AI tune. And what I can do here to get the same color in this shingle is if I just click this color and click let's see. I think if we just, whoops, let me undo that. I think if I just click it, maybe change it a little bit. It's probably a better way to do this. But now it's in my recent swatches. So that's just the way that I kind of do it. So here for the base color for this new tune shader, if I go to base color, now it's that first one in my save swatches there. And I just need to connect my base tone map and my specular tone map, and then I can come in here and give it a little bit of that same, just bring up the specular a little bit and bring up the roughness a little bit. All right, so that, I think that's good enough to move on to the next thing. And again, you can kind of periodically just increase or decrease your camera AAs here to get it to look more pixelated. So if I go down to like, you know, -5, it's going to be very, very pixelated. -3, -2, or you could just do 1 or 0. If you do 0, right, that's a pretty cool stylistic look all in itself, right? Just using the tune shader at a value of just a value of 1. That looks pretty cool just by itself. Maybe we'll just stick with that for a while. So okay, so that's basically the process I'm going to be doing for this whole thing, right? And this might get boring. I might do some of this off stream, just because I'm like rebuilding shaders until I get to some of the more challenging things, and then we can, and then I can talk about how I'm gonna try to figure out some of the more challenging things. Okay, so let's unhide the next piece, which are all these boards. And if I want to figure out what material, which one of these materials are on those boards, all I have to do is right click and go to material attributes. It should give me a name, right? Wood SS. So that's the one that I want to change. Now I know that this one has this one wood material is assigned to a few different objects, a few different groups. So I'm just going to kind of set it up on this material or this group. But then as I'm unhiding things, I can just apply them. So it's going to be kind of easy for me. So same deal, wood SS, shift, also select my toon shader, graph both of those. My AI color jitter, there's my ramps, and I should be naming these AI toon materials that I make too. So tab AI toon, let's go ahead and name this one. So we're just going to do wood. So I can just assign the color jitter to the base color, the base tone map, and the specular tone map. Increase the specular weight a little bit and the roughness a little bit. And I can tweak these at any point, right? So I think my main goal for now is just kind of getting everything or as much stuff assigned as I can, and then I can go through and tweak them. So I think that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and unhide the next thing, in caps. So I think these are also the wood material. So what I can do is, let's just say right click, material. Yeah, so see this one's also the wood SS. So all I have to do for this one is to right click and assign existing material and assign the AI toon wood. And because because I connected that color jitter, they're all various different colors because they're still separate objects. Right, so there's my wood. Porch, I believe, is also going to be wood. I just want to double check to see. Main house. So all I'm doing is, so this is the wood variant. So let's go ahead and rebuild the wood variant. And I believe it's just a darker wood. So wood variant and the AI toon. We'll map both of those. Yeah, see this one doesn't have a color jitter on it. So I'm just going to get the color for that wood. Into my swatches there. And then when I make the new tune shader, go ahead and name that to AI Wood V. And apply those. I'm not sure I like the color of that. I think I want it to be less saturated and darker. And that looks all right for now. I think this one has the same. Oh no, so this one has a concrete material. So this one has a different material on it. So let's go concrete, AI tune. And I'm pretty sure it's just like a dark gray. So we're going to connect the base tone map. So a lot of this is just rinse and repeat at this point for a while. Oops, did something weird there. But what's cool about this, since I'm using the same tone map for everything, so if we get in here really close to like our porch, right, so what's really neat about this, because I'm using the same tone map for everything, if I edit the tone map here, it will change it for the porch and the shingles. Now that may not be always what you want, and that's fine, but for now it's a lot easier, and then if I do want to change it a little bit, I can just apply a different tone map to something. So I'm going to go through everything and just sort of assign everything that I can. And then when I want to tweak it and sort of put some of my artistic touches on things, if I want to assign a new tone map to something, I can. But so far that's looking pretty cool. So next we have the chimney. And I'm pretty sure this is just concrete. So yeah, I can just assign the tune concrete to that. Bricks, this is where it's going to start looking really cool. Right, so let's rebuild our bricks. Same deal. AI tune. And I'm going to name this one AI tune bricks. And we'll plug in our color jitter to our base color, our base tone map to our base tone map, and our specular tone map to our specular tone map. You can control sort of like the look of your specular highlights quite a bit with roughness as well, rather than just so you can sort of edit it on an individual level with just your roughness, rather than going in and needing to create a new tone map. So I just need to assign the material. And there are my bricks. So you can see that it's starting to look pretty cool. And just to show you what I mean by controlling your specular highlight, if you increase the roughness on the bricks, that specular highlight will get a lot bigger. Let me make sure I'm on the right material here. Yeah, so as I increase the roughness, we can see that specular highlight more. And I believe the chimney bricks have a different material assigned to them. Yeah, chimney bricks. So I know this may be boring, but at least for people coming in and watching, you get to see what I'm doing to get this result, basically. So I'm going for a sort of like pixel art toon shaded look for my scene, but I'm rebuilding the shaders or materials from what I already have. So everything will be the same color, but it'll be this really cool sort of pixelated toon looking scene, hopefully, right? Let's hope. All right, so AI tune. We're going to call this one AI tune chimney bricks. And we're going to plug in the color jitter node to our base color, base tone map to our base tone map, and specular tone map to our specular tone map. And then we just need to assign it to our chimney. Not sure if those are supposed to be all gray. I think they are. I might want to go in and change that so they're a little bit more brown. So kind of a little bit more like these bricks. I don't mind them being a separate color, but let's look at the color jitter node. They are a bit gray. So let's see if we can change them to more of a brown, more of a warmer hue. Yeah, I can tweak that better, but I do like that a little bit better right off the bat. We have top shingles here. Those are, I think, going to get the same material, except we have these two, right, that are a different material. So I'm just going to assign them the AI Tune 2, I think, is going to be, yeah. And while I'm here with that material, I'm going to name it. It'll let me select it. AI Tune 2. I'm going to name shingles. And then we can select these two and assign them 3. Which is the red shingles. Not quite sure why they're such a different color, unless I didn't apply the right material to the red ones, which could be the case. I think that is the case. So let's go to a really easy way to do that is go to shingles variant here. Select objects with material, and that should select them. Yeah, so it selected those. So that means I didn't assign that other material to them. So now I can just right click and do shingles, red shingles. So normally I would have like my render view like on a almost like on a different monitor and my hypershade on a different monitor, but I'm trying to show you guys what I'm doing here. So that's why I'm switching things around. Normally it wouldn't quite be so crazy as I'm moving things around. I want to make that a brighter red. To make sure I have the right material. I kind of like those being a little bit more red or even orange. Orange gives a nice sort of complementary color scheme off of the blue shingles. So that's looking pretty good. So we can, again, periodically, I'm going to like to go to my settings here and just look what it's, kind of check out what it's going to look like when it's pixelated. Right, so that's more of a pixelated view of it. I'm just noticing that my chimney, the inside of my chimney, isn't quite the right color. So I probably forgot to change the color of that base color. I think it's probably that one. So it still has sort of like this, I don't know if you guys can see it. But it still has sort of like this reflectivity to it. And I'm not quite sure I like that. So I would like to figure out how I can get rid of that. And it probably has something to do with the specularity. I mean, I could just drop the specularity on it completely. You see, as I increase it, it gets sort of really sort of reflective looking. And I do not like that whatsoever. Because I want it to be pixelated. I don't want it to look all reflective like that. I mean, I could just bring my weight way down. Wonder if that's something I could change in my lights. I think that's something I'm going to have to just deal with later. Or at least let me get the cabin done. And then I'll kind of tweak around with that off stream. So I can give you guys a more straightforward answer on how to fix that issue. But that's definitely the first challenge that I see myself running into, is that I don't like that that reflective look that it has so far. The mesh models here, I don't think I need to unhide that. I think that's all the individual bricks and stuff. So I'm going to leave that hidden. The other porch, I definitely want to unhide. And I think that will just get the standard wood material. Same with the windows. They're just going to get the AI wood material. AI tune wood. And then for the most part, there's this grunge thing, which is really just like dirt that I have down here. I'll deal with that one later, but I think for the most part, that's kind of the cabin, right? Everything in the cabin all said and done. So let's do a render. Yeah, I do not like the reflective nature of some of these materials. So now I'm wondering if I can, instead of specular, if I could use one of these other like rim lighting. Let me try that. I'm going to just take the specular off of the wood there for a second. I mean, already I think that looks better without the specular, right? But we want some sort of specular highlight in there. So it's kind of annoying, but let's try. I'm just going to experiment. I don't know if this will work. But let's try taking our lights, and in the stylized highlight section here, I'm going to middle mouse drag our lights. Let's just see what that does. Doesn't look like it did anything. Try bringing them into the rim lighting as well. That did something. I'm not sure I like what it did. Yeah, I don't think I like that. So let's get rid of those. It's going to be, I think it's going to be another thing that I have to research with the Toon Shader to get a proper specular highlight. So maybe that's something I can come back to at a later date. But I think that almost looks better without any specularity, if I'm being honest. I do like a little bit. I feel like we need some sort of specular highlight. I could also try I think that works. I think a very low weight value and a darker color and a high roughness value sort of gives me what I'm looking for there. Try playing with the tone map a little bit. Yeah, I think that looks better. We have less of that reflective highlight. Let's do this to the other materials as well. So let's do this to the bricks. So high roughness, darker color. Yeah, I think that's better. Less of that really reflective sort of sheen to everything, like mirror, had sort of like a mirror sheen, right? Like these bricks here. So let's go once again, low specular weight, high roughness, and then a darker color. Yeah. There's probably an easy way to do it to just like all your materials at once. But I'm doing it the hard way. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. It just breaks it if it, you know, if it's super reflective and shiny, it just kind of breaks the whole style that you're going for. Try -2. Yeah, I think -1. Can we do -1.5? No. I think for now, -1 looks pretty good. Let's do that same thing to our concrete material here, because I can still see some of that reflectivity. It's got the wrong material on it, that's why. Although I do kind of like that weird look to it there. I think that looks pretty good for the style I'm going for. All right, the last thing I want to try before I call it a night here is I have these lights in my windows. So let's go and unhide the window lights. And let's just see what they look like. I'm afraid it's going to give me some soft shadows, which isn't really what I want. But I have a trick in mind for something that we can do for those. Yeah, so let's I hit render with my render window. Okay. So don't even see them. Which is interesting. Oh, there they are. Okay. They don't look too bad, if I'm being honest. Let me zoom in really close here. They are giving kind of a weird thing, really pixelated look around the windows, which I don't like. And we still have the whole volumetric problem to kind of solve, which I think I have in my mind, I have a solution for it. I'm not sure if it's gonna work. So I think what I'm gonna do for these lights is I'm gonna create a surface. I'm just gonna create a plane. oops, plane with no divisions. And these are going to take the place of my lights. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these a surface shader. So I'm going to right click and assign a surface shader to this. So what a surface shader is, unlike a standard surface shader, a surface shader is just a flat color. It doesn't actually emit any lights. So I'm going to add a surface shader to this. And then in my lights, I have a ramp. So I have this ramp right here on my lights. And I should be able to just plug this into my surface shader. So let's go back to the hypershade. And I have that light selected, so we should be able to graph that, right? So here's that ramp. And here's my surface shader. So I should be able to just right click, drag that into out color, right? If this doesn't work, we can just use the tune shader, right? But let's see how this looks in the render. Not quite the same as the lights, right? It's quite a bit darker. Which I'm not 100% against. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's hide our lights again. Window lights, hide those guys, and then I'm just going to throw this guy in here behind all of our windows. Right, so something like that. That doesn't look too bad. Not too bad at all. We could probably try changing the ramp. to it's a box ramp, maybe a circular ramp. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit nicer. Let me try to get one of these lights a little bit more. On the side here. There we go. We got to put the lights in the other windows, but I think that looks all right. And then one of my ideas for sort of a way to do volumetrics was, let's go ahead and just create a cube. And I'm going to smooth that cube. And then to this one, I'm also just going to create a surface shader. And make it sort of a white color. Can change the color later, but I'm also going to increase the transparency. So again, this is a complete experiment. I'm not sure how this is going to work. So the idea is sort of to make this very transparent. And maybe a little yellow. And then I can duplicate it. and sort of build up some volumetrics that way. It might work better as like cubes, so it kind of bands out, but I think that I don't hate it. Right? It doesn't look that bad. I think the more we sort of layer it up, the better it would look. But that's one thing I'm thinking of for the volumetrics. And I think if we, kind of back off a little bit like that, it looks pretty good. I don't like the fireflies. I don't know if you can see them, but there's some fireflies in there that we'd have to figure out how to try to get rid of. Again, it may be better just using the toon shader for something like this. We could use the toon shader without a tone map. And just a flat color that might be better. I wonder if we can just change this to the toon AI toon. Let's see if we just change that to a toon shader. See what happens. See, it has shading though. Let's restart the render. Should be flat. I don't understand why it has shading unless it's because of the no tone map. But let's try transmission. That's basically your transparency. Can we even change the color? Color changes. Oh, I bet we need to turn off the base. Yes. Turn the base off. That might be cool. Let's come back to that rim lighting thing. And let's go to transmission. See, now that's not giving me anything. I just want it to be transparent. Take these out of that. Yeah, I think the surface shader worked better for that. For whatever reason. I feel like if we get this, if we could get it to be transparent, like it could work well, but I think it worked better as a surface shader. AI flat, what is that? No. AI See, now I'm just taking shots in the dark. Let's go back to surface shader. I think that was our best. Our best result was with the surface shader. To get a little bit of volume there. But yeah, the fireflies. I don't like the fireflies. Okay, I think that warrants more exploration, but for the night, I think we got something that looks pretty good. So next live stream, I'll try to schedule it so it's not just on the whim like it was tonight. But next live stream we'll continue working on this until we get it complete. So thanks for joining. Thanks for stopping by. And again, first live stream in quite a few years. So hopefully the future ones will go a little bit more smoothly. And I'll try to do something that's probably more entertaining than just reassigning materials to objects. But yeah, until next time.